Alright, welcome everybody. This is Christian from Sterling Knight Gamers, and today I'm going to talk about another company that I've really enjoyed over the last few years and I think is of particular importance during this COVID time where we're trying to limit the amount that we're going outside, and that's Hungry Harvest. Hungry Harvest is similar to a few other companies like Imperfect Foods or Misfit Foods, and the main premise of all these companies is that they take the produce that would normally not be harvested at all. Food that is imperfect in a certain way that grocery stores just don't want. And unfortunately, a really large percentage of food grown in the United States and around the world are perfectly healthy and edible, but are oddly shaped or have a scar on it, or maybe they have like a blemish from some insect bite that they got during their production. All this food's perfectly edible and tastes great, but people aren't going to pick it up at the grocery store. And some of that is just human nature. There's 100 apples put in front of you. You're going to choose the few that look the best. And so will every person before you and after you do the same thing. And those apples that don't look great are not going to be picked by anyone and they're going to rot. And so grocery stores don't buy it. That's where these companies come in. They buy directly from farmers and they take those foods that look a little bit weird. I've had plenty of carrots that have all gnarly and curled or too big. Farmers get at least some income from these products that they would get nothing before. Some farmers, what they do is they take a portion of the money that they get from Hungry Harvest and then they pay people to collect other stuff that gets donated. One of the criticisms of these companies is that they take some food away that would go to food banks. And while that's necessarily true for some individual products, even free produce isn't really free to be donated to a food shelter. Workers have to be paid or volunteers need to be found to harvest that food and have it be delivered. This is a way that farmers can get extra income for produce that they normally wouldn't be able to sell. It's kind of up to the farmers of what they're going to do with that income of either, paying, just having that be income for their own business, or if they're going to use some of that money to hire more workers that will also send stuff to food banks. Because unfortunately, this is a huge percentage of amount of food that we're talking about. Like, estimates vary between like 20 and 40% of all food that's not like cereal crops and stuff. And for speaking of personal experience, I work for the EPA. I'm in their pesticides division, and I've gone to crop tours where they're harvesting celery, and I can see them leaving like 20-30% or more of the celery on the ground on the field. And the reason that they're leaving it is it's a little bit too tall or it just doesn't look right. And so they're just picking through it really quickly. And this is incredibly common for a lot of produce, and all that produce requires a huge amount of water, huge amount of pesticides and land. We'll go a little bit more into the pesticides, but all that input that goes into producing those crops, it's just wasted. But this is proving the market that people are willing to eat these imperfect foods. Maybe they always require a discount, but as these companies become more successful, grocery stores are then going to have a ugly produce section where maybe it's half off. People are going to go ahead who are on a budget or just are frugal like I am, and they're going to go to that section. So I think that's one reason why these companies are so important beyond just the products that you're getting, just the produce that you're getting. I think this could lead to a better marketplace. That's a little bit of my soapbox, but I really truly feel that way. I just wanted to share that. For the products themselves, I get the full harvest every other week. I've been really happy with the boxes I've been getting for, years now. As a good millennial, I choose the avocado toast add-on option to make sure that I get the free shipping. It includes a loaf of bread, some avocados, and a dozen eggs. And often these eggs, again, like the rest of their produce, they're literally too big to be sold and be matching with all the other eggs. I often get cartons where 30-40% of the eggs are double yolks, or they're just massive compared to some of the other ones. And I'm okay with that, but your grocery store isn't. They want all those eggs to be roughly the same size. So again, these are things that would be wasted, and you're taking them out of the waste, you're helping the environment, and you're getting these products delivered to your door at really economic, fair prices, and often free shipping depending on the thresholds that you go at. In a larger trend, I'm going to go ahead and provide a link for Food TV. I enjoy their channel, and this particular one is about how hummus is produced, which is created by chickpeas. And just an example of how us consumers can really change the amount of pesticides that are being used. I work at the EPA, I work in their pesticide office. I can tell you a huge amount of pesticides that are used to make foods perfect. There is a huge difference between having food that is perfectly marketable, edible, and healthy, but in order to make sure that there's not a single blemish, or to make sure that there's not a single discoloring, it's going to take 2, 3, 4 times as much pesticides to get to that level of perfection. Chickpeas are grown in the United States. They're harvested. If there's any weeds in the field when the chickpeas are being harvested, it will stain the color of the chickpeas, because chickpeas are a very light color. Any kind of sap from any kind of weed could make it not perfectly tan color. All it takes is a few plants in the entire field. The value of that whole production goes down dramatically. So in order to make sure that there's no weeds whatsoever, and the plants would obviously grow if 0.5%, 1%, 2% of the field had some weeds growing among it. That would be fine. Like, you wouldn't get a yield loss, but you would get a huge value loss. The amount of pesticides needed to kill 99% of weeds is one thing, but in order to get 100%, you really need to overkill and use so many more pesticides you would normally use. And so that's just one example for one crop of how, if we were okay with foods not being perfect, then we would use less pesticides. And whether or not how you feel about pesticides in organic food versus conventional grown food, I think everyone could agree it would be perfectly fine for both us and farmers who have to pay to use those pesticides, that if we used less pesticides. I think this is one way we can move the market and show that we're okay with our foods not being perfect if it is better for us, it's better for the environment, and it's better for the economy as a whole to not waste so much money getting things to look perfect rather than being healthy and more flavorful. This has been my video on Hungry Harvest and other similar companies. Do you use any of these companies? Do you like one more than the other? I have some referral links for ones that I've used or my friends have used. And I encourage everyone to try these companies out, see if they deliver in your area, and let's help move the market into a more sustainable marketplace. I hope this has been helpful, and thank you. Bye.